Well, my parents,
This is Damian Macy, representing the Friends of the Marshall Public Library. Today, I'm visiting with Fred Herrington on July 1st of 2015, and we are at the library. And with that, I'll introduce you to Fred.
all righty. My parents were William and Nina Shirley Herrington, and they were married in 1933, and then I was born in 1935, and I am a big 80 right now. And age never bothered me much until I turned 80, and then I started thinking, I'm getting old. So anyway, I went to school in the country, Pleasant Grove, where Ray Ferris now lives. And my class was, there was 6 of us, I guess. And I went through the 8th grade in the one-room school. And I only had 2 teachers the whole time.
Wow.
Clarence Collier for 2 years, and then I had LaFern Adams the rest of the time. And when I graduated from there, I started, of course, in high school in Marshall. That was in 1949, when the new high school was built and opened for the first time that year. So I got to go to a brand new school. And of course, my dad was a farmer, and my mother was just a housewife. And I was in ag in school, and I was supposed to have an animal, so we had a sow. I got a sow, and that she was to have pigs in just right away, and she up and died. So I had kind of bad luck there.
Were you in 4-H also?
No.
Was there?
No.
Even I'm not sure exactly when that really took off around here.
Yeah, I wasn't in 4-H. As I say, I wasn't in Marshall much until high school, because we always went to Terre Haute. My dad had an egg route and would go all over Terre Haute every Friday. And we always went to A&W, had to have a root beer. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I would only do that in the summertime because I was in school, other than that. And then, when I graduated from high school here in Marshall, then I went out looking for a job just one day in January the 16th, I believe, in 1954. And I had graduated in 53. And I went to Public Service Indiana, it was called then. And they hired me that very day. So I didn't have to go looking for any other job. And I was with them for 31 years. Okay. And I worked in a field office, which was an office that was wherever they were building a new plant, and kept track of their costs of building the plant, until I went to Princeton, Indiana for a year, and then back to Wabash River in the office of the plant that I kept track of the costs to build. And that's where I ended my work in the 31 years and retired. Of course, my mother wasn't in very good health. I'd already lost my dad in 1971, and my mother wasn't in too good of health, so I was able to take care of her up until
Great.
the very last. She fell and broke a hip, took her to the hospital, and she then had to go in a nursing home and was only there, she only lasted 42 days. So, and she just went downhill every day from that time on.
Fred, in those 31 years that you worked for the public service, were there some dramatic changes that you saw
Oh,
in
yeah.
the company and
Of
the way
course,
it operated?
at first we didn't know what a computer was. And then they brought computers in, and I thought, oh my, how will I ever handle that? But, you know, you just gradually learn. And it wouldn't do everything at that time. It just kept track of the coal we burned, mostly, and then they would add something else and just keep adding to the computer until I would call it a full schedule on the computer.
Those computer days that you remember were probably with the card system too, weren't they? Of indexing the cards and punched holes in them.
Oh yeah. And so that's really where I learned how to deal with the computer, was on my job. And then I wanted one, of course, at home then. So I had a computer at home. And that was when I retired. That was in 1984. So I can't think. After that, of course, I really took care of my mother most of the time. For 6 years, I had her then. And we went on some trips down to Branson and different places, and she enjoyed all that.
That place has changed a lot too in the last few years.
Oh, I'm sure it has. I've been there 4 times, but not for quite a while now. So.
I'd be surprised, I think, probably
I'm sure.
Going back now. From those experiences and with the, I guess with the computer, do you say, gosh, there's some things back there I wish I had have learned about it, or maybe I could have done this or could have done that?
Right. There's a lot, to comprehend and all that, but you can look up anything on the computer. And of course, I have a tablet also. I like it because it's so handy. You can have that in your easy chair.
You've really modernized it.
Oh, well, I have a friend that he thinks I've got to have all that stuff. He's younger, and he thinks I need it, so he gets it for me. He even bought my last computer for me, and the printer, the whole works, and gave it to me for I think that was for Christmas.
Wow.
One year. And
nice.
then this tablet he just gave to me for my birthday this year. So, but I've enjoyed it.
As you say, you can go in there and just find out about anything
You
want.
can.
It's almost scary sometimes.
Right.
I think
If you Google it, it lets you talk to it, and you just ask it what you want to know, and it goes right to it. It's really something.
Now, with all that modern technology, have you adapted to a thing called a smartphone?
No smartphone yet. No, my friend, as I said, I have the old-fashioned cell phone, and all I need it for is just in case of emergency, or if I get in Terre Haute and want to call somebody and ask them something, I can.
Fred, you mentioned spending a lot of time in going as a youngster and even later to Terre Haute, and you worked there for a while. You might just mention what changes you saw in Terre Haute over that period of time. I can remember as a youngster going there, especially for Christmas shopping in downtown, was just an absolute bustle of activity.
We would go up one side of Wabash, then we'd come down the other side. And there was Roots and Alden's and Ward's and Schultz and well, Meese, a lot of the old stores, and they're all gone now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to believe. And
That-
of course, once Honey Creek Square came in, then everything went down there.
Do you remember I believe it was a Kresge's that had the donut machine inside the front door?
I don't remember the donut, but we used to eat in there a lot. We would get up to the counter, and usually it was so busy, you just had to wait until someone would leave, and then you could get on a stool.
There was a peanut shop also
I
on the
remember
north
that.
side, and the guy used to be dressed in a Planter's Peanut
Uh-huh.
costume and would hand out about a tablespoonful of peanuts as you
I
went down the
remember
street.
that.
And I always wanted to try to get maybe a couple times, see if I could get a couple dips.
And of course, I went to service in, let's see, that was 49. No, yeah, that's right. No. 59. And then I was there until March of 60. And I spent my whole time in service at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And they told me when I went in that I would be in finance. And that's where they put me, and I was there the whole time.
Was it 2 years? Or?
And I enjoyed it because I was able to take my car and get out and run around, because my job didn't amount to very much, I didn't think. I just took care of the records as people came in, and would go through the record and take off the information so they could get their flying 5 or 10, whatever they were giving them at that time, to get supplies with. And then some days only 3 people would come in. And I had no boss. I just went to work when I wanted to. Of course, I was considered a night worker, so I didn't have to fall out for reveille or any of that.
My, you hit it lucky.
I was exempt of all of that. So anyway, if I had nobody coming in, and the guys would tell me, they would know whether there was going to be anybody coming in. And so I would just take off in my car, and maybe somebody else that I was there with, I mean, as friends, had the day off or something, and we would take off in the car and maybe go to Jefferson City or Rolla a lot, and
Lake of the Ozarks?
and Lake of the Ozarks. Especially weekends, I always had a carload. We would take off every weekend and go even to St. Louis and go to a musical or some event that was going on. And of course, you got all free tickets because you were in service. So that part was pretty nice.
I'll tell you, your memories of Fort Leonard Wood are a lot better than mine. Did you have basic training there too?
Yeah, I did. And from basic training, went into this finance department, headquarters.
Because I was in basic training there starting with February. Terrible weather. Terrible. This was in the old barracks, the old wood ones. From World War II.
Well, that's what we lived in too, but.
They had just started building the new brick barracks.
And of course, we would just go up, we called it up on the hill, and like you just came in, then we would just pick out 4 or 5 guys, and they would come do our work for us. If we had needed the floors scrubbed or whatever, then they would, but I was always easy on them. I mean, I would buy them a Coke or something, and they would always tell me that they'd never had anybody treat them like I did. They thought I treated them very nice, and I did, because I remember when I went in how bad it was. So,
Have you been back to Fort Leonard Wood at all?
No, but I guess it's really changed.
I understand it has too, and I've driven by there several times and thought it'd be just kind of interesting to see what it looks like today, and I've never gone back in.
I've been by there too,
Yeah.
but never went in. So.
Were you still though kind of glad to leave the military?
Oh yeah, I did come home though once a month. I would come home, and for a weekend, and usually bring one of my friends from there with me. And of course, it was different for them because they'd never been here. Some of them were like from Chicago and California and Bristol, Virginia, and different places. So it was all new to them.
What was their reaction to Marshall? Do you recall?
Well, of course, like Bristol, Virginia, he thought it was pretty small. And you didn't have much time to do anything great because we wouldn't get home till late Friday night, and then you just really have Saturday because you had to start back on Sunday. So
they thought Marshall was kind of a small,
place.
little tiny spot. Did it? I guess especially from California, and to coming into Fort Leonard Wood, the weather must have been a dramatic change too.
Oh yeah, and a lot of things. They don't have June bugs, lightning bugs, whatever you want to call them, in California, and that fascinated the California people. And one of the things that I always did was put salt on watermelon to sweeten it up.
Okay.
And they couldn't understand me putting salt on watermelon at all. They never heard tell of such a thing. So, I mean, it's just a different place that they live, and it's altogether different than what we're used to. So.
Now, from the military then and leaving it, is that when did you go back to?
I went back to public service Indiana.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I had to work at headquarters in Plainfield for 5 years. I worked over there, and then I just roomed over there for 5 years. And then I went back into the field office again when they were building plants. So, and that was different over there because you had to wear a suit every day, and you didn't meet the public at all. So we never, even at that time, we couldn't understand why we had to be so dressed up, but that was their rules.
I guess it's an image thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In today, is there activity in Plainfield, or is that office
They
still
still
operating
have that
now?
office, right. But now it's Duke Energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure where their headquarters is, really.
I think
I think Cincinnati, is it?
I was thinking Carolina's one.
Oh, maybe it is.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
It's out that direction
Yeah.
somewhere.
Of course, I get correspondence from them, but I really don't pay that much attention to the address. And then that wouldn't mean anything. It could come from any place. They're the largest electric company, I think in the
I believe that's right.
country here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing of how times change.
Sure does.
That thing you mentioned about the sow and the poor thing passing away, did you get another animal for your project back then?
No, I did. I just didn't take ag after that. No.
Did you have a pet?
Oh yes, we always had a dog. Always had a dog.
Do you have a pet now?
Just a parrot.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't talk.
Sometimes that could be a good thing.
In a way. Mm-hmm.
During your early school years and all, did you have some hobbies and things that collections and things that,
Not in school.
how about today?
Today, I like antiques,
Okay.
and I collect open-handled plates. And Mary Lou Bowen, you know, and I would go antiquing probably about every 2 weeks. We'd take off and take a whole day and go just every place. Bloomington, Indiana, Bloomington, Illinois, you know, Indianapolis, out by St. Louis. We'd just go in different directions each time, and we'd look up antique shops where knew we were going to find them. And of course, Mary Lou enjoyed that too. Yeah, she loved it.
Remember?
Yeah, I bet you do.
Were these, I guess you'd say, buying trips, or just simply to look and see what's out there?
Just look and see what's that. Of course, usually we'd run into something. I remember, of course, she liked lamps, and I think that's where she got most of her lamps. And I like lamps. I collect lamps. I have JR's lamp from the Dallas show.
Really?
It's not his, but it's a replica.
Oh.
I have a Betty Grable lamp. And let's see. One from the musical My Fair Lady. Of course, they're replicas. So.
Is that a particular type of collection that you continue to add to? Or as you say, well, I've got it, I'm just going to hang on to it?
I just don't have any more room. I'm full. But I really enjoy that stuff. Mm-hmm.
Are these, any of them, the Gone with the Wind lamps?
Oh yeah, I have all different kinds. Most of them Tiffany. They're real colorful.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Have
some people come in and say it's like a museum.
As long as you like it, that's it.
That's all that matters.
Do you follow the Antique Roadshow on
Oh
television?
yes, yeah, I enjoy that. Mm-hmm.
You see some things on there that, that looks just like what I've got in the cabinet.
I have, and you get an idea of what it's worth. Well, of course, you do that if you go around to the antique shops, and you'll see things that you have. Give you an idea of what the price is.
Have you ever taken any of these to an Antique Roadshow?
I never have. No, never have.
I assume, though, the insurance policy is adjusted to take care of some of those too.
Yeah, I have it all insured.
Yeah, that's very wise in today's market.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a great hobby, and one that you can put some dollars and cents on it too.
As a kid, of course, I didn't do any of that, but my folks got me a pony. I always wanted a pony, and it was smarter than I was. My dad built a cart for it, and we would start down the road, and that silly pony would only go so far, and it would start backing up, and it would back me all the way home.
What was the pony's name?
A Champion. Mm-hmm. And it was black and white spotted. It was a pretty thing.
Was that by any chance that name taken from a famous movie star's name?
Not
horse named
really.
Champion?
I just named it Champion. Yeah.
I know those early years, I used to enjoy watching the movies and the westerns, and there was always Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and all of the ones with the trigger and the champions and the horses. I loved to watch those at the old theater.
But that pony had learned to get in the corn crib, and we would get up of a morning and look out, and that pony would be in that corn crib, and my dad would say, well, it's probably going to founder itself, because it'd eat all night probably.
Gosh.
And we finally had to get a new way to fasten the door on the corn crib.
But the pony, I'm sure, was still well fed.
Oh, yes.
Are there some teachers that you remember about high school, maybe?
Well, I always said Mildred Hutchins. got me my job in the Army because I took typing for 2 years, and I was the fastest typer in the tests we took in service.
I got you.
And that I always figured that got me where I was at that time in the Army, in finance. But then I never used typing after I got in there. Never typed, not a thing.
Really?
No.
How about correspondence? Do you still just, if you write a letter, do you write it out
Oh yeah.
in longhand?
Yeah. Oh no, I do it on the computer.
Computer now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those typing skills are still put to use in that
Yeah, but
fashion.
nothing. I can't do the fast typing anymore. Of course, my fingers have arthritis in them and they're stiff. But I managed to get it typed out anyway.
So modern technology helps you out in that.
Oh
fashion,
yes,
then.
it really helps.
Okay, you mentioned the collection then as a hobby. Do you still attend some antique shows or antique auctions and stuff?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Not as much. Since Mary Lou's gone, I haven't had anyone else that's as interested in it as I was and she was. So, but I still go to antique stores and check them out in Terre Haute. Every few months I'll stop in and look and see what they have.
Do you have a particular shop that is your favorite?
I think the ones that were my favorites are gone, really. I used to love to go to Shadeland in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
It was a big one and had everything. And that probably was my favorite, but it's gone now, I think. And there was one down south in Indianapolis, Southport Mall. You know,
Oh, yeah.
It was a nice one too. I think I enjoyed the Indianapolis ones more than any.
Wider range of what they have
Mm-hmm.
available. You mentioned the antiques, of course, and the lamps. How about other things like furniture, carpets?
I have all marble
fabrics?
top tables.
Okay.
And sort of Victorian. So, but I've just got all I can handle. I can't have any more because I don't have any room for it. I see things that I'd like, but I think I'd have to get rid of what I have, and I don't want to do that. So,
That's kind
so
of
I just kind of come to a halt.
With us, anything that comes in, something's got to go out.
Yeah, right.
Fred, over your lifetime, has there been a person or an individual who you really feel has influenced your life and maybe changed your philosophy?
Well, not really that I can come up with.
Okay.
Of course, a lot of the teachers, I mean, you have to say they sort of,
Molded.
helped you along. But Mildred probably was
The top.
the top one.
How about things in the world, just events or something? Has there been a world event that really has changed your thought and said, my gosh, that's something that's really impacted my
Well, of course,
life?
in 2001, the New York deal, that was, I remember exactly where I was when I found out about it. I was in Paris, and I was stopping to get a friend, and we were going up to the mall at Tuscola. And we got up there and wasn't there but just a short time, and they closed the mall, the whole thing. I think that's one of the biggest events.
Was there a TV on or something up there that had any of the events in?
No, we listened to the car radio all the time, and of course they were telling us all the way up there. And then we tried to get out and shop a little bit, but as I say, I'd say in an hour's time, everybody closed up. It just completely closed.
Yeah, that was a day that just kind of created a vacuum, I think, over the whole whole country. To kind of go a little bit farther on that, we all look around. We've got so many conveniences in our home, and is there a invention or something that you say, "My gosh, I just couldn't live without that"?
Of course, now I couldn't live without the computer. But I mean, you just stop and think of all the things we have. But what worries me the most is if the terrorists would hit our electric plants and cut us off. What would we do? Everything we have runs on electricity.
You can't get in many stores anymore without an electric door.
You can't go to the bank and get any money, even.
And they can't price out things at the checkout counter.
No. They just can't do anything. And we couldn't either. I have an electric stove, to cook on, and microwave. You couldn't use any of that stuff.
Even your heat and your air conditioning are all based upon the electric current.
It's scary if you stop and think about it.
Do you see the computer continuing to take over in our lifetimes?
Oh, I'm sure. I even think that we probably won't even carry money of any kind. There'll just be a card or something like your credit card. I think will eventually take over.
Of course, that'll add more fun for the embezzlers and the people who are always trying to get ahead of it. Fred, if you were in a foreign country and you were talking to someone and you were trying to tell them about Marshall or about where you live, how would you describe our community and maybe why they might want to visit here?
Well, it's an interesting little town. It's small, but it's quiet, and everybody knows everybody pretty well. And it's just something altogether different than a big city, that's for sure. But where you can just relax and enjoy things such as the band concerts on Friday nights, and there's not many places have all that. So I think it's an interesting little town. We have several restaurants, places to eat,
and it's clean.
And a clean little town.
Well kept. I think just about everyone takes pride in their property, takes good care of it. Well, Fred, you've been very interesting to talk to, and I thought maybe you might now get a new pet named Champion or something to put in your backyard, but I guess not.
I guess not.
I've enjoyed talking to you and certainly appreciate your time of taking part in our oral history project.
Well, thank you.
And this will be not so much for people to look at today or tomorrow, but in the future. And then kind of find out, what was that Fred Herrington all about? So again, thank you so much. We appreciate your participation.
You're welcome.
You talk.